Supreme Lord, eternal truth, let us obey Thee alone and live according to truth. Paramocha Prabhu Satyam Nityatvamev Kevalam Anuvartamahe Satyam Anujivam Kevalam Om Shantihi Shantihi Shanti. Good morning, Vande Matram. Welcome all of you. Namaste. The topic to be discussed now, this glorious evening, is on three aspects of the divine. And glorious topic. So we'll see the topic, the three aspects of the divine. These aspects as defined by Sri Aurobindo, as quoted by Sri Aurobindo, as explained by Sri Aurobindo from his teachings. We'll see what are the three aspects of the divine. Initially, Sri Aurobindo quotes here: it is the cosmic self, number one. It is the cosmic self and spirit that is in and behind all things and all beings. First is cosmic self and spirit that is in and behind all things and beings, for which and in which all is manifested in the universe. Although it is now a manifestation in the ignorance. Present scenario is packed with ignorance, avidya, ajnana. But thing is that it has to be manifested, will also be manifested in the universe. That is, number one is cosmic self and cosmic spirit, self and spirit. That is in and behind all things and beings. So, of course, it is in the ignorance. The world is here. The world is actually packed with ignorance, avidya, ajnana. So it is there, but thing is that it has to be manifested in the universe. That is the cosmic soul and personality. Second is it is the spirit and master of our own being within us. Second one, from cosmic it is coming to inside us, within us, the spirit and master of our own being, which we have to serve, to learn, and learn to express His will in all our movements. That we must do here. First, we have to serve, and second, learn to express His will in our movements, that so that we may grow out of the ignorance into the light. In the ignorance, He is there, in the cosmic soul and being. Second, He is telling the master and the spirit that is in us, and we are here. We have to serve and learn to express His will in our movements, so that He may grow out of the ignorance into the light. That is the second aspect. Third, the divine, the transcendent being and spirit, that is the transcendent, beyond the things. So, beyond the world, beyond the universe. All bliss and light and divine knowledge and power is that beautifully it has been described by Sri Aurobindo. The all bliss, light and divine knowledge and power. And towards that, the highest divine existence and its light, existence and light, we have to rise and bring down the reality of it more and more into the consciousness of the life. So ascend and descend in the both planes. That is the third aspect. That is the true transcendent, divine and transcendent being and spirit. First, we have to rise. Then we have to bring the reality reality of it into more and more into the our consciousness and the life. This is the third aspect, that is transcendent. So, in ordinary nature, we live in the ignorance and don't know divine. Already we have expressed, we have spoken of. We don't know divine. What is the divine? We don't know. Simply, we are confined to a very limited sphere, limited vision, and a limited puja adoration like this. The force of the ordinary nature are universal force, because they weave a veil of ego. Entire the ego, ignorance, and avidya, it is there. And desire and unconsciousness which conceals the divine from east. It is not the divine who is actually far behind us. He is here. He is veiled. He is veiled by the ego, desire, and unconsciousness. In ignorance, he is there. To get into the higher and deeper consciousness, which knows and lives luminously in the divine, we have to get rid of the forces of the lower nature. So now itself we are occupied with the forces of the lower nature. The most interesting thing, that what is the objective itself, to get rid of this lower forces of the nature and open to its action of the divine Shakti, not only to rise above, but also second, next part, next role, what we have to do, next action, next movement is to open to the action of the divine Shakti, which will transform our consciousness into that of the divine nature. So this is the conception of the divine from which we have to start. The realization of the truth can only come with the opening of the consciousness and its sense. So two things we observe here. In so far this integral ego is concerned, so far these objectives and aims are concerned. The initial thing is that we must know the divine. Second thing, we must open to the divine. Third thing, we must try to manifest, and we have to ascend up, and simultaneously we have to descend the power, the force, the light into our consciousness, and there must be a change. So the fundamental change of consciousness is the object of this yoga. Entire change of consciousness, that is the object of this yoga. Then Sri Aurobindo quotes on how this distinction came. It is actually cosmic, transcendent, and individual divine. Who has done it? How it is done? Is it something like Sri Aurobindo has done it, or our Vedic Puranas, the old philosophies has done it, or it has been imported from the European philosophy? On that question, Sri Aurobindo, of course, tries to clarify the distinction between the transcendent cosmic and the individual divine is not my invention. Sri Aurobindo quotes it very interestingly, very humbly. Sri Aurobindo, it is not my invention, nor it is the native to India. Even it is not the native, it was not native to India or to Asia even. So it is in it, on the contrary, a recognized European teaching current in the egoistic tradition of the Catholic Church, where it is authorized explanation of the Trinity. If we can go into the teachings of this Christian philosophy, Catholic monopoly, there is three aspects have been divided and distinguished, described rather: Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Father, number one; second is Son; third is Holy Ghost. So it is very well known to European mystic experience. From there itself, we get the essence. It exists in all spiritual disciplines that recognize the omniscience of the divine. In Indian Vedantic experience, and of course the Mohammedan yoga, not only the Sufi but also in other schools also. The Mohammedans even speak not of two or three, but only many levels of the divine until one can reaches the supreme. So these are the things. It was actually native to these Mohammedan fields or either to the Catholic monopoly. So it is not it is not my monopoly. It was there. And if the divine is or manifest himself in the same three, it is not the conceivable that in the aspect in his working, so he may differentiate himself so that we are driven. If we are not to be confounded of all truth of experience, if we are not to limit ourselves into a mere static experience of something indefinable, to speak a triple aspect of the divine, here in the quote city in a very interesting way. So again, we'll go little forward. The sadhaka, however, can ask for the divine force to aid him in keeping his health or recovering it so that as if he does not that as the part of the sadhana, so that his body may be able and fit for the spiritual life. For this, actually, he asked for a for the divine to get the divine aid of the divine force, so that his body and entire being should be fit for the spiritual life and capable of instrument for the divine work. So that is the need, that is the requirement that is done. So again, we'll go a little bit ahead with the Sri Aurobindo's quotings, very interesting quoting of course. Let us first put aside the quite foreign considerations that we would do if the union with the divine brought external joylessness or nirananda or torture. To such things don't exist, and they drag it not only to the clouds of the issue. So Sri Aurobindo about the foreign philosophy that force it is coming, and there is also extra eternal joylessness, nirananda, torture. So many things have been described in the foreign philosophy. So here the divine is known as also the Anandamaya. So where there it is there the Anandamaya, then joylessness, this Nirananda, where is the presence? How it is possible? The divine is Anandamaya, and one can seek him for the Ananda he gives. He is seeked by the sadhakas only for the Ananda. But he has also in him many other things, and one may seek from him any of them for peace, for liberation, for knowledge, for power, for anything else of which one may feel the pull and or the influence. So there are excluding leaving behind this Anandamayata, that then another aspects are there. I will quote it again for peace, liberation, knowledge, power, and anything else. So here in the course, it is quite possible if someone to say, let me have the power from the divine and do his work and his will, and I am satisfied. Even if his use of power equals entails suffering also, someone asks, it is possible to shun the bliss as a thing too tremendous or ecstatic and ask only and rather for peace, liberation, and nirvana. Sometimes it is also possible, and also we are doing. Again, we'll go. For these, the aspects of the divine nature, powers of it, and the status of his being. But the divine himself is something absolute, something self-existence, not limited by his aspects. Here in the course, in the final touch, here in the course. But the divine himself is something absolute, someone self-existence and not limited by his aspects, wonderful and ineffable, not existed by them, but they are existing because of him. All creating, all created and unborn, who lives by all live by him who lives for none. That has been described as in Savitri we have seen. So it follows that if he attracts by his aspect, all the more he can attract by his very absolute selfless, who is sweeter, mightier, profounder than any aspect. His peace, rapture, light, freedom, beauty are marvelous and ineffable. Just imagine how it is quoted in a very technically and very bold voice here in the course. So, because he is himself magically, mysteriously, tremendously marvelous and ineffable, he can then be sought after after for his wonderful and ineffable self, and not only for the sake of the aspect or another of his. This is the great description as described. He has the glory, he has the mightiness, he has the peace, he has the light. Many other things are there. He is marvelous and ineffable. So we can be attracted for these aspects. The only thing that is needed first to arrive at a point when the psychic being feels this pool of the divine in himself, number one. Psychic being feels this pool of the divine in himself, number one. Number two, to arrive at the point when the mind, vital, and anything is life begins to feel too that the what it was wanting, and the surface want for the ananda, and what else was only an excuse for drawing the nature towards that supreme magnet. So there must be that divine consciousness, and we must know the difference between our willings and with respect to these three modes of existence. So, it was not my invention to say that it was wrong to aspire for the Ananda here in the course. What I wanted to point out was the condition for the permanent possession of the Ananda, or that's infinite inness, vistas, visits, and down rushes of it, it can as before. So, we must be able to know, distinguish, and reach the divine. Thank you.